Hello and welcome to Strong and Curious. Today is another episode in the segment of Curious About Culture. In this episode, we talked about unusual things in Denmark, such as getting tied to a pole and covered in cinnamon if you're not married by 25, having to hitchhike across Denmark as part of the school education, or the tradition of graduates throwing caramels at younger students, and much more. Enjoy. So to start off, here are a few fun facts about the country. Denmark is a country located in Northern Europe, known for its high standard of living and social welfare system. Danish culture is characterized by a strong emphasis on social equality, simplicity, and coziness, also known as Hygge. Denmark is a peaceful and progressive country with a rich cultural heritage. Denmark is considered to be one of the happiest countries in the world, according to the World Happiness Report. The Danish monarchy is one of the oldest in the world, with a history dating back over 1,000 years. Denmark is the birthplace of the globally famous Lego company. Denmark is also the home to the oldest amusement park in the world, which was founded in 1583. The Danish education system is consistently ranked as one of the best in the world, with a focus on creativity, critical thinking, and problem solving. My guest today is the very interesting Nana Mouritsen, who grew up in Denmark. She's also an exchange student here at Hygge University, and we're going to talk about life in Denmark. Have fun. So what do you miss most from back home?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think one of the thing I miss the most is like the student life. Because back in Denmark, we have like a concept called Friday bars, which is like really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So each faculty or like each study will have their own Friday bar.
Okay.
And like for instance, digital design have a bar with information science and media science.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think in total we have like 54 bars in my town.
Really? Okay.
So each Friday you can grab a beer with your classmates and then you just jump around for hours. Some of them are more like clubs where you dance. Others is a bit more laid back.
Yeah.
So I feel like that concept is one of the things that I miss the most. I feel like it could be awesome if Hanyang did the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are these normal bars besides for like are they only doing this on Fridays?
Yeah, it's run by students. So it's they only do it on Fridays.
Okay.
So usually like after lecture you would go and grab a beer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they open at 2.
Okay.
But sometimes you would go out and drink before that. So I think the earliest, like me and my classmate, we started at 11 once because it was Friday and our class ended there, and then we got down to a bar, like a local bar, and then we got over to the Friday bars afterwards. And then you do like a bar hop where you just jump from bar to bar and meet a lot of new people. So
okay. And are they like classic games, or like challenges? Because for example, me and my friends always did something called the Golden Mile. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
It's 12 bars, so 12 beers in 12 bars in 6 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, we don't really. I think it's more like you have drinking games, of course, that you do when you're at a bar. And then I know some studies have like their own games.
Yeah.
So I think anthropology, they have, I think they call it the golden lemur or something like that, where it's like one student is going to dress up like a lemur, and then the person will go to like a bar in Aarhus with a ton of money, because each student have to give like 20 Danish crown, and then the person can start drinking.
Nice.
And he or she can drink whatever he want to or she want to.
Oh, really?
And then the task is that everyone else has to find that person. So you'll go to a bar, but if you go into a bar, you have to grab like a shot or a beer before you can go to the next one. And then during the game, the person will like drop hints. So it's a bit easier to find him or she.
Okay.
Yeah. So I feel like it's more like stuff like that we do at my university.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, crazy.
Yeah.
Sounds fun though.
Yes, yes.
I read that education and healthcare is actually free in Denmark, but the taxes are high. Like so that all this stuff is free. You have to pay high taxes, and I read that apparently most Danish people would say that they are happy to pay high taxes because they get all of this stuff. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I feel like, at least for most of the people I know, you have like a sense of community. So I know I'm paying taxes, but I'm gonna get that back in some way. So for instance, like we have free healthcare, so you can just go to your doctor and you don't have to pay anything for that appointment. Or you can get an operation and you don't have to pay for that. And even like as a student, when you go to high school and you're above 18, or if you, like me, are doing a university degree, you don't have to pay for your studies, and you will actually get like some sort of support from the government. So I'm getting paid to study, and that is basically where they're trying to cover like some of the basic costs, like rent and food, so you can focus on your studies instead.
Okay. That's so nice.
Yeah.
But so do you get really enough money to pay your, just like the basics, like you said, so your apartment and food and stuff? Is that enough?
Yeah, I feel like it's enough to cover like the basic things. But of course, if you want to do something fun, then it's good to have
a little
like,
money
you have to work a bit. And I think it also depends on like, do you have your own apartment, like a landlord you pay to in the city center, or do you live in a dorm room? Because there I actually know some friends where they can put a bit of money beside, so they have something in case their computer breaks or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Must be nice.
yeah.
I found that the Danish people counts they're currently on the second place for the happiest country in the world. How come?
Oh, yeah. What's the secret to happiness?
Secret?
I heard, I'm not sure if it's true, but I heard that, the way that they measure happiness is like, of course, they translate it to your own language. And in Denmark, I think you would translate like happiness to glæde, which I think the meaning of that word is a bit more different. It's more like, am I satisfied with my life? So it's not like I need anything big to happen in my life in order for me to be happy. I just need like the basic stuff, like have good friends, be happy about the job I have. And like, I think when you compare it to the US, I feel like it's always about, you have to have a big house or like be an astronaut or something like that. So, it's a bit, I feel like I assume that's why Denmark is so high, because we don't expect that much. Like, the baseline is filled and then I'm happy. Okay.
Because it's funny you say that. I actually found the kind of definition for the Danish culture is Denmark is a peaceful and progressive country with a rich cultural heritage that values simplicity, equality, and sustainability. So just a simple but happy life.
Yeah.
And one thing I also wanted to ask you, a word for that I see many times is hygge. If I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, hygge.
Hygge, yeah. What is that?
Oh, I feel like hygge is kind of hard to explain. Because it's like a word, the meaning depends on the situation you're in. Okay. So usually, like when you hear other people talk about hygge, you think about like dim light, then you're watching a movie and it's really cozy and stuff. So that can be like hygge in one sense. But I think it's also like, for instance, when you're hanging out with your friends and it's really chill, like you're drinking a cup of coffee or going for a walk, and the moment it is just chill, then you would call that hyggeligt. So it's also like hygge, but in a different way. Yeah. So I think usually I would say to like internationals in Denmark, that Hygge is more about like having a chill moment, and you really enjoy yourself and the company you have around you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's important to be present in the moment and just enjoy what you have. Then let's talk about the school system.
Ooh.
So how does it work? Do you also have like the classics, elementary, middle, and high school, or how is it built up?
So we have like a school called like a folk school. In Danish, you would say folkeskole, and that's mandatory. You have to participate in that. And usually they divide it into 3 different sections. So you have like, you would call it indskoling, which is like from 0 to 3rd grade. Then you have mellentrinnet, like the middle, that's from 4th to 6th grade. And then you have like udskoling, like the last section, and that's from 7th to 9th grade. So that is like I guess it's like the basic school. Like you need to do that at least. After that, it's a bit different what people do. So you can take 10th grade if you want to. You can go to high school. But I think in the recent years, it's been like become really popular to do something we call after school. Which is a bit similar to a boarding school. Yeah. So like back in the days, if you went to like efterskole in Denmark, you would think that, oh, then you're a bad person or like you're a troublemaker. Oh, really? But today it's like the meaning has changed a lot. So it's like an efterskole is more about like you're going to school, but then you're also like hanging out with your friends, you live at the school, and you also do some courses where it's all about your hobbies and like what you like to do. So for instance, I went to one in 10th grade and I had like some basic courses like Danish, English, math, and then another one, I think. So it wasn't that busy. But then I also had like design because I thought that was really funny. So I think that one, and then maybe 2 other courses. I remember one of them were like learning to play guitar because I thought that could be fun. But I also know some of the others had like, we had like a riding course where you could learn to ride a horse. That was really popular. And then like an adventure course where they did a lot of adventurous things. Really? Okay. Yeah. And a biking course, and it's like a lot of different stuff. So that's like what a efterskole is about. It's more about having a community and then doing the things you think is funny to do. So you can do that, and then afterwards a lot of people choose to go to high school. So that's usually 3 years. So when you're done, I would say you're usually like 19, 20, and afterwards I think this is pretty Scandinavian. Do you take gap years in Switzerland?
The guys usually have to do military service or something, and oftentimes since that takes long enough, we would just do that and then go study. But a lot of the women, since they don't have to do the military service, they often take gap years.
Yeah, because in Denmark, I feel like it's actually weird if you don't take a gap year. Like I remember being at uni where I met like a person who she didn't take a gap year, and you know it was COVID, and that kind of makes sense. But at the same time, I was like, whoa, that's really weird. Yeah. So usually I think people normally take like 1 or 2 years, but I've met people who took like 4 or 5 years. For instance, I had a friend, she wanted to travel the world, so she went for 11 months and went to like New Zealand and like Asia and South America and stuff. So I think she took 4 years. So I feel like that's quite common. So also when you actually go to university or something else, then the age is quite different. Like you have some people who are really young or some people who are a bit older. Because it's also quite common that then you try something out. For instance, I tried to figure out if I wanted to become a teacher. So I did that for 1 year, and then I found out, I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
So I changed to digital design.
Okay.
So I think when I started, the youngest person we had was 19, like in digital design, and the oldest, I think he was 20. No, the oldest, he was 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that sounds cool. So, just a quick comment on what was it called again? The boarding school where you do whatever you want. The special courses with like guitar and stuff.
After school, like in 10th grade.
Yeah, exactly. That part. I think that's really amazing that you like let the students do what they want and like explore their talents and their interests and stuff, because I feel like that's what growing up is about. You gotta try some stuff. And especially like you said with what you started to study, and it's great that you can start studying something, notice, okay, that's not for me, and change it. And I assume that's perfectly acceptable, right, to do that.
It's I don't feel like anyone bats an eye if you change something. It's I think in Denmark it's more about like what is the best for you. Just do that. Like when we were talking about the after school thing, we also have like because in the gap year you can usually travel. A lot of people do that, but others also go to something we call højskole.
Okay. Yeah. What's that?
So that is a bit like efterskole, but it's usually people do it after high school. So it's basically like I think originally it was a guy in the 1800s who invented the concept, where it was more about like he wanted to make a school where it was not about literacy and like reading books and stuff, but it was more for the common people. So he made a school where you learned like common stuff, and then he also focused on like the sense of community and like democracy. So you become like enlightened in that sense.
Okay, so it's more like a school of life.
Yeah, actually, I think a lot of people say that it's more, we have a word called dannelse, which is like shaping you as a human being. So it's more about focusing on personal development. So if you go there, I did that as well. And it's more about like doing things you like. So I tried to do, again, design, because I thought maybe I wanted to do something with design. So we did architecture and like industrial design and a lot of things. And then I had other courses like knitting because I thought that's fun. And I think we had like 4 different courses in total where you can just do whatever you find funny. And then you're living on that school. And usually like the schools they make events and parties and stuff. So you also try a lot of different things. I think mine was the first one. So I feel like they do a lot of crazy stuff. We had a thing, do you have like the word blaffe? Where you stick out your thumb on the road and then you just hope for somebody to pick you up.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. I don't know what the English term is. But anyway, one morning, usually we had to like meet up, sing some songs, then somebody would talk about something they liked. But this morning they were like, oh, now you're going to do the blaffe thing. So we got divided into groups of 3 people. We had to draw 3 cities we had to go to.
Really?
Yeah.
And so
cool. Then afterwards, I think I was pretty lucky because I got like one on Sjælland, which is the island where Copenhagen is located. And then I got one on like Jylland, which is the part that's connected to Germany.
Okay.
No, we got 2 actually. And they were luckily pretty close to each other. Anyways, they throw you into a bus and they're like, press the stop button when you want to get off. And then you get off at some point. And then you only have your phone. So basically what you have to do is like blaffe, and you have to rely on people being nice. So I feel like that was actually a really good experience because you just have, I think the first guy he picked us up at like a highway. So he drove out to the highway, then he stopped and back because he felt so bad.
Okay.
Because we were just standing 3 people on the road waiting for somebody to pick us up. And he was really nice, and he drove us to like a point where we could find somebody else who wanted to drive us. And he even bought us like food and stuff, so we had a bit of like snacks for the trip.
Okay. That's really nice.
Yeah. So anyways, you try to get around. Usually people are really nice. I didn't have any bad experiences. And it's also funny to talk with the people who actually are driving you somewhere. Because I remember like I had a friend that I was in the group with. We just asked a random guy at like, it was like in a parking lot. We've been asking a couple of people, and he was like a bit tired. He didn't really want to talk, and he was like, okay, I can drive you to this town, and you have to be quiet in the car. Don't talk to me. And then we were a bit sneaky because we were like 3 people. It was me, a girl, and a guy. And the guy is really good at speaking with people. So we put him in the front, and we sat in the back, and they started talking. And then all of a sudden, like, the guy who was driving was like, oh yeah, like the city you go to, I actually have some grandkids who live there, so I'm just gonna drop you off. So it's really great, and I think you get a lot of good stories. You actually realize how nice strangers are. For instance, my roommate, she ended up in Sweden because she couldn't. They were at the airport in like outside of Copenhagen. They couldn't get into Copenhagen. So they ended up going to Sweden and then back to Copenhagen.
Really?
Yeah.
How long did that take?
I don't know. We had 24 hours to get around.
Okay.
And you had to be the first one. That was like the goal.
So it was kind of a race.
Yeah, it was kind of a race. And I think that's, I know a lot of other højskoler does that as well. So that's just like something you would do. It's not like weird.
Yeah. But that sounds really awesome. I feel like that teaches the people like to drop the fear of strangers.
Yeah.
And if like the whole community has like the same mindset of trying to help each other without like expecting much in return. That's so nice.
But I also think the teachers are having way too much fun. Like at my school, I think they ended up banning this because they got in trouble because it was like a game thing where I think the students had to collect signs or like take pictures of some specific signs. It wasn't my year. Signs? It was like, it was like a few years back. So you would be divided into teams and you would have to take pictures of some specific signs. So you would run around in the field and then you would actually have to hide from the teachers because they would drive around in cars, a bit like a gang. Yeah. And then they would drive around with them, like the paint gun things.
Oh, paintball,
yeah, paintball guns. And it actually, the reason they banned it was that it got so bad a year because the højskole is like located close to a city, and somebody thought that there was like happening terror because you know the teachers would drive around, they would shoot the students, and if you got shot, you were dead. So the story I heard from like one of the teachers were that somebody called the police. They thought it was terror. So like the whole department in the southern part of Jutland where the school is located, they drove. They had like helicopters and stuff.
Oh, really?
And then they ended up like stopping one of the teams where I think they told me they had like an intern who actually thought that the police were like on their side. They were a part of the joke. So he was just joking with them. And he was like, oh no, I'm not going to throw my gun down. And then afterwards, I think like the head of the school, she actually heard that he was really, really close to being shot for that joke. And then she like she talked with the police officer who was like, you can't do that. And
That's
she was
a
like,
crazy
and she was like,
misunderstanding.
we didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And she's a really tough lady.
Mhm.
So, they just had a discussion and she kept on saying that they didn't do anything wrong.
Mhm.
So you can't really be punished for it.
Yeah.
So I feel like, they can do stuff like that
Mhm.
if they want to. So you end up doing weird stuff sometimes when you're in that school, and it's really fun and you get some strange and really good experience as well. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're collecting stories.
Basically.
Well, that's insane.
Yeah.
Especially with the cops.
Yeah,
Could be a deadly misunderstanding.
Yeah, really. I felt like, especially when the whole police department was involved, and you would have so many cars and helicopters, and the head of the school, the lady, she didn't really give a fuck about it. She was like, we're playing, that's fun. Yeah, I love that attitude.
I kind of have a story about the generosity of strangers. So just because you talked about like how I gotta Google what that word is, like when you're standing next to the street like this.
Yeah.
So you're depending on other people to help you without anything in return. And when I was in the military in the officer school, we have the DHO, which is the Durchhalteübung. So it's like kind of a survival week. You're just for a week you have to do a lot of difficult things. And it started with we had to get out of bed at like 3 a.m, and then we had to walk to a mountain. I mean a mountain, like a hill. And then to get something, and then we had to keep going. But the problem was when we got up there, one of the guys forgot to like put a key back in the base.
Oh no!
So we had to go back, put the fucking key back, and then again over the mountain. And then we went to a different place to pick up our bikes. And then where we were there to pick up our bikes to drive with all our equipment on those city bikes through like forests and stuff. It was terrible. And our like the head of sports, he said that he took 4 hours for the entire trip, so you guys should take like 8 hours, when we were the fastest group with like 12 hours. And that sucked tremendously. But the thing was that we only got a little breakfast when we picked up the bikes. We got like a little croissant.
Wow.
And so it wasn't a lot. And then we kept going, and then like there were people passing out, because if you run around and
passing out,
because just the lack of nutrition, and part of the whole adventure is you don't have your phone, you don't have any money, you don't have any food, you can only have water with you, nothing else. And I mean with equipment of course, but no food and stuff. So we were basically starving, and on the top of the mountain where we were on the bikes, we were in like a group of maybe 30 guys. And then I was always the last one. I sucked at the endurance stuff. So I kind of walked and pushed the bike over. I got to the hill, and there was a restaurant. And we didn't have any money, but we had like a moment of being without any of the supervisors, So we're like, okay, who is gonna go in and beg for food? and then the owner came out, and he was like, what's going on? So many people. What are you doing here? And then we were like, can we have anything? Like, we're going to take breadcrumbs, whatever you can give us.
Oh, no.
And then he was like, wait here. And then he went in and he came out with 3 entire loaves of bread. So like a huge bread and an entire cheese wheel and like a 6-pack of drinks and even a bottle of wine.
Wow.
And we were like, we don't have any money. And he was like, take it.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, it was so amazing, because just for being nice, you didn't expect anything in return. And it was like, he said it's important to do good. Yeah,
but I think it's a bit funny sometimes how far people will go. Like, because we had the same thing where we went and we asked for bread at like a bakery, and we're like, we have no money. We just got dropped off in the highway, and now we're here at some random town. And she was like, yeah, you go. What do you want? Just point.
Really?
Yeah. But I also talked with some of the people from my school, and I think you needed a place to sleep. Because it's 24 hours the race, and usually you can't really finish it like that quick.
Yeah.
And they went into like a hostel. Okay. And then they were like, to the guy behind the counter, they were like, we have nowhere to sleep. Yeah. This is the situation. We can't really pay you back. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I can't really do anything. Mm-hmm. But we have a laundry room. Mm-hmm. If you want to sleep there, I'm not going to tell my boss, but I can open the door for you. Yeah. And then, sneaky. Then they were allowed to sleep in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But I actually had like the same thing where when we were on our trip, we were in Aarhus, and then we had to go to a town up north called Maribo, I think. Mm-hmm. And we were just standing at a bus stop. We were like standing there with a sign to one of the bigger town up north. Yeah. And we were thinking about asking a bus driver if we could get in. And then my friend, he's standing with the sign, and he's like a really talkative guy, which was amazing because I feel like it saved us a lot of times. And we were standing at the bus stop, and two guys next to us was just looking at the sign. And then, as you usually do, he talks about our journey and what we're going to do. And like we had to go to Maribo, to go to another højskole to hear about something. And then he talked with the guys, told them about the story, and the guys were like, you know what? We actually went to that school, and we know people from that school. Really? And then they were like, if you can go on the bus and get to Randers, that's like the city we had to go to in order to go to the other big city, or like the Maribo city we had to go to. They were like, if you can manage to get there, we have like a church, because it was like a Christian højskole. And we'll give you lunch, and we can order like some of the people to drive you from that church to the small town.
Really?
Yes, they were so nice. And
That's
like
awesome.
we could also have lunch at the school if we wanted to, and they were like, oh, you can stay here if you want to. So people were really nice. Okay. When you ask them, I feel like it's just a bit embarrassing sometimes to ask about it.
Yeah, you just gotta get over it. And
ask. Yeah.
Well, that's really awesome. Mm-hmm. Sounds great. We started to talk about the school system.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to ask, like, how is the grade system? How does that work? What kind of grades do you have?
Okay, I remember we talked a bit about it once. Mm-hmm. So in Denmark, we don't use A, B, and so on. We have like a grading system where it starts at -3. And that's basically like if you don't show up.
Yeah.
I heard that's like if you don't show up, then you get -3.
Okay.
And I think then you have 0. That's like when you really fuck up. I don't know. I've never heard about somebody who get it.
Okay.
And those two are like, then you fail if you get it. Afterwards, it's like, then you can have 2, 4, 7, 10, or 12.
And the stuff in between is just non-existent?
No.
Okay.
Because when you apply for the university, for instance, then they're gonna like put the grades together and figure out what is the average grade. And then that's gonna be like defining if you can get into medicine or digital design or whatever you want to.
Yeah.
So that's how it works.
I found some crazy traditions, especially also in school.
Yeah.
So one of them is creating missiles out of caramel candy. So can you tell us about that? So what happens with throwing around caramel?
Okay, it's actually a bit weird because I thought Denmark and Scandinavia, we had the same traditions and it wouldn't be weird. But after I've been talking to my Swedish friends, they think Denmark is the weirdest place ever. I was just, actually before I got here, I was talking with a Swedish girl and a Danish girl, and I was like, oh, this tradition, like with the caramels. And she was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? But basically, So I can just tell you my experience at my school, because I think it's a bit different. The caramel tradition is quite common, but it's like the last day you have at school. So it's before your exams. Then you have like a period where you can do some readings and stuff and prepare for your exam. But then you have like the last day at school for the 9th grader. And at my school, you have to dress up. So you'll dress up as whatever you want to. And then I think you start out with eating breakfast and stuff with your class, and that's really nice. Then later on, we have this tradition where you would walk around at school with a bag of caramels. And then all of the class, like all of the people from each class is like hiding in their class because they know shit is about to get down. So you basically walk around, then you throw caramels into the room, you walk to the next one, and usually you would see like the students hide. So they're like hiding underneath the table and like behind their backs and stuff, and then when you hit, they will run out and grab the caramels. Sometimes if you're mean, people actually freeze the caramels, so if you get hit, it hurts like hell. And I remember it was great. I was really like, it was the best moment ever. So I walked around with some friends and we were like throwing caramels. And then I have a little sister. She's 5 years younger than me. So, you know, when I went to her classroom, I really had to aim for her. So I even went, you know, inside, found her and was like, but usually, you know, you just sit underneath the table. I actually had a really weird experience where I passed a class and I was like, that's cheating, where they had built like a wall of the table. So they had like flipped it over. So you would just have the front and then they would hide. They were hiding it, behind. So it was just like you walk by and it was just a wall. So it's not really funny. So that's one thing we do. That's like beating the younger kids with caramels, and that's really nice. That's really the best time of the year, both for us who's like beating and the one who's receiving the caramels. Afterwards, at my school, we have like a shaving cream fight. And before the last school day, the 9th grader would create like the death list, like the blacklist. And on that you put on all of the names of people you expect to see in the schoolyard. And then the thing is, like, if this happens sometimes, if they're not out there, then you're gonna get them. Then you're gonna grab them from the classroom and just drag them out. So then you just see like a bunch of people, like a bunch of kids running around in the yard with like shaving cream, and then they just smack each other with it. And then you have, of course, like a teacher or somebody with some water. So if you get it in the eyes, you can rinse it out. So
the teachers are watching.
So basically, like that's what we do in Denmark. I thought it was really common in Scandinavia, just to like beat each other with caramels and with shaving cream afterwards. Apparently it's not. A bit disappointing. So I feel like that's one of the weird traditions.
And what about, I don't know how you pronounce it, the lowest one?
So we have something called Studenterkørsel, like student driving. And that happens in high school. So not in the folkeskole where you had the caramels and like the shaving cream, but that's in high school. So when you finish high school, you get a fancy hat. Like a white hat with like a ribbon. So mine was red because I was mainly doing like, we were focusing on language and history and stuff. If it's like science, then it's blue. And then you have business, it's light blue. But then we have this tradition where so imagine, you know, in Denmark we love to drink. So imagine you have a bunch of students, you give them a ton of beer, like a lot of beer, make them drunk, and then you throw them on an open backed wagon. So basically it's like 20 students inside or outside or whatever you say, an open wagon where you drive around. There's no seatbelts. You're just drinking, listening to music. And then you drive around to your parents. So the purpose is actually that you start out, somebody's doing like breakfast, and then you get on the bus. And I think we did it at 10 maybe. Then you start drinking. If you get the highest grade, then you have to run from the place you ate breakfast and then after the truck to the first stop.
Oh, really?
Yes. Okay. So you do that, and then basically you drink a lot of beer on the wagon and like at the parents' place, and then you're just visiting each other's like houses or apartments where they can give you snacks or ice cream. We actually had like the weirdest stuff. It was a guy's mom. She had brought ice cream. That was really nice. And then she brought cigarettes that she was handing out.
Really?
Yeah. Nice. So you drive around for a whole day. You drink in an open wagon with music. Before that, like a couple of days before, you would make like banners and stuff you would put onto the wagon. And that's basically it.
Okay, so it's just basically a party on wheels.
And it's really nice because like if you're driving around, usually like people with what do you call it when you press the horn? They will like honk at you. They will be like woo. And then sometimes it's really nice, like if you're having the party in the wagon and you like spot a person on the street, like you're in a like cross, and then you party with them. We also have like a tradition that you would bring your siblings on the trip. So unfortunately I wasn't there when my little sister, she was doing her ride, but if I was there, I would get on at the stop where my parents are, and then I would get on to the wagon and like drink with them until the next stop. Okay. And I think the age doesn't really matter, of course. If it's a child, you don't drink, but it's still quite common that happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
So speaking of crazy traditions, I found one where you burn witches. So tell me about this tradition. What happens there?
It's during midsummer. So back in the days, Denmark was really like believing in witchcraft and like evil spirits and stuff. So we would burn. I read somewhere that it's not like back in the days, it wasn't just like a witch. It could be like a figure of a troll or whatever, that you would put on a fire. And then burn it to scare away the evil spirits. So basically, like, I think it's more like a family tradition, because I know they have midsummer in Sweden and it's more like you drink with your friends and stuff. But basically, like, when I was a kid, we would make a witch doll. So you would like make a head out of a balloon, and then you would put on some old clothing, and then you would, it sounds really weird when I explain it, come to think about it, then you put it on like a fire, and you set fire to the fire, and then you just sit there and you look at the witch burn.
Okay, and that's in midsummer. Okay.
Crazy. Don't ask me why. I don't know why.
In Switzerland, we actually have a similar tradition. It's called the Böögg.
The Böögg.
So I actually Googled it to make sure I don't say anything wrong. So it's like a big figure that kind of looks like a snowman, but made out of burning material. And the tradition is you light it on fire, and there's explosives in the thing. But I mean, like firework kind of style.
Okay.
It's all whatever. And then the tradition is you burn it, and the time it takes to blow up determines the quality of the summer.
Wow.
So if it's between 0 and 6 minutes, it's going to be a nice summer.
Okay.
6 to 10 medium, 10 to 15 a lot of rain, and over 15 the sun's going to suck.
Does it have to be a specific size?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty big, and it's actually on the Saxilute. It's what's called. It's like it's also a holiday. So at 6 o'clock in Zurich on a big place. It's similar to, because you also call it a Scheiterhaufen, which is also, that means it's similar to the burning of witches tradition, because in German that's what you would say, you burn a witch on a Scheiterhaufen.
Nice.
Then I found another crazy tradition where you get tied up to a pole and covered in cinnamon.
Oh yeah.
What's up with that?
So it's a Juddish tradition. And it's basically like when you turn 25 and you're not married, then you would see this quite often, especially during the summer and the spring. Then your friend would like kidnap you or like push you outside, and then they would tie you to a pole. And then usually you get covered in like oil.
But
That's
like
quite
oil?
yeah, like olive oil, whatever. Like whatever you prefer. Some people also do it with water, but it's more because afterwards you would like throw cinnamon at that person, and then if you do it with oil, it actually sticks. So it's not uncommon. Like I didn't think about it until I talked with some international. Like I was walking with a friend, and he was like, "Can you explain me why you have cinnamon all over the place?" And then you're like, "Oh yeah, it's like in Jutland when you turn 25, then you get that."
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. And I heard that there's another one following at 30 if you're still not married.
Oh yeah. Actually, there's two. So it's not that common.
Okay.
Some people do the cinnamon thing, but with pepper, because when you're turn 30 and you're not married, you would call it like a pebersvend or pebermø, so like a pepper guy or like a pepper woman. So you can get that just with pepper, but I heard it hurts a lot. So it doesn't have that often. But in Jutland you can also see, like, if you drive around, especially on the countryside, you can sometimes see like a really big sculpture made out of like barrels outside of a person's house. So you would like make a horse or like something like that with barrels.
Is it like the French that do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure why you do that. If it's like
Okay.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, like, these things happens in Jutland and not like on the island where Copenhagen is located. So people from Copenhagen usually think that's really weird. Whereas, like, as a Juddish person, I'm like, this is the most natural thing ever.
Crazy. I found some different traditions as well, and so in particular marriage traditions that I don't know if you know about it. Maybe you can confirm it, that when during the actual wedding, the man gets like held down and they cut a hole in his sock.
Yeah. So I've only been to one marriage, and I can't really recall it happening there. But I heard that the reason that you do that is like, on one hand, if you look at the guy's perspective, it shows that he's like a bit more chill, feel a bit more at home. He don't really have to look fancy or anything. But if you look at it from a woman's perspective, it's also like a challenge. Like, you have to fix the socks, show you're a good wife. Yeah. So I think that is why.
You also told me that you have something like a boat festival.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about it.
So I'm from a town called Aarhus, where we have Aarhus University. And each year, I think it's in the end of April, the beginning of May, it's on a Friday each time. The university holds like I think you would call it like a beer race. In Denmark, you would call it like a beer stafette. Where I think it's 14 like groups from different faculties. So for instance, I'm from the Faculty of Arts, and we have like a group called Humbug. And then like economy have one, I think it's called UF or something like that. So you have like 14 different groups who they make a team of, I think it's 5 people, who have to do a boat race. Okay. So basically we have like a lake. It's not a really big lake at all. It's really small, where the boat race would take place there. And during that event, like when they actually are doing the race, I think they start out with, usually you can see like the teams, they're standing in line. Like usually you have 3 teams who's like competing against each other. And then you would see how they run, and they don't sit into the boat, they actually jump into it. Because usually I think some groups practice for like half a year to a year.
Really?
Yeah. And some of them actually, they skip a semester because they're really into it. Okay. Yeah. So, they really know how to jump into the boat and how to sail quick. And then when you get to the other side of the shore, you have to go up, then chuck a beer. So when you're practicing, you also have to learn to chuck a beer. So there's like different methods. Like I heard that they like swirl the bottle, so it like spins around, and then they flip it, because then it spins around and into your mouth. So they chug a beer, and then they have to like run around it 10 times, I think. So around around the beer bottle. Oh, okay. So they put it down, then they run around the beer bottle. Yeah.
So they get dizzy.
Yeah. And actually I read like an article where they were like, it's really important to train for it, because otherwise it can get really dangerous, especially when you jump into a boat afterwards. Yeah. But then you go back, then it's the next person's turn. So everyone has to do that. Okay. But it's actually a bit like a festival. So it's not only about the boat race, it's about a lot of other traditions. So I think usually it's like 30,000, 50,000 people who gather in that park. Wow. And last year it started I think people started coming to the park at 2 because they wanted a good spot. Wow. So they come at like 2 at night. I heard some even start at like 10 the day afterwards, where they basically start drinking, because you are not allowed to sleep in the park. So, you have to stay awake. And sometimes, people can take a short nap, and then they'll like look out for guards or whatever. So usually, like I heard at 4 or something, it was really crowded near the lake, because people wanted a good spot. So basically it's like a festival. You have like food stands, you have places you can buy beer, and you can bring your own if you want to. But then there's other things happening during those hours. For instance, we have like talking about racing around the sea. We actually have a naked race, I think, where it's like, I don't know what the winner gets, but usually it's like, then you see 20 naked people run around the lake. And then I think it ends up like you actually have to cross the lake, so you have to jump into it as well and swim. And that's not weird. But then they also had like, what's it called? I think it's like each faculty has like they usually do like a song before the race starts. So you can like Google, and you can see videos where people have been making good songs about how they're going to win and how everyone else is a loser or something like that. And they also do like a performance show thing before the race actually starts. And usually it's really weird stuff. I talked with a friend a couple of days ago who told me that somebody dressed up as Scooby-Doo, like the team, like one of the teams did that, and then they made something. Humbug, like the Faculty of Art, they did like a Jurassic Park thing. So it was like a dinosaur who came like in on a boat, and then it started like, killing people, but it's like the inflatable one, so it was just like slamming people with its head. But beside from that, we have a weird thing. It actually, I think it got banned this year. But we have had the tradition of like, I think it's economy. They have like the group called Øf, where they hire Denmark's best stripper to do a strip show during that like that mini festival in front of like everybody. So you would have like camera guys who's like filming so everyone can see it and stuff. And I talked with one of my friends from back at home, and his roommate is a part of that group, where they actually, it was a bit like where you have to bet on something, or like not bet. It like people have to like, it's a bit like an auction, I think he told me.
Yeah.
And then at the end, like the group who actually pays for the stripper, then you bet on higher and higher and higher. And the group who gets the highest bet, they actually get to be a part of the strip show. Really? So like my friend's roommate, he actually ended up being the guy who had to be dragged around, because one of the others, like the guy who said he wanted to do it, he built them, like he didn't want to do it anyway, so he was like fine. So he got like a strip show, dragged around with a leash and stuff in front of like 30,000 people. And you know, that was like, you know, that's normal. We don't really think about it. Yeah. But I also know a girl who's like in the committee who actually arranged everything. And she told me that one year they had like this stripper, you know, if they hired a stripper, but sometimes they want to be a bit extra. So that time they actually hired like a camel that she could ride. Yeah. Yeah, that you know, she could ride in on that, and the camel came and stuff, and it was outside of the university, and they were ready to get her in, and then the guard stops them, and they're like, guys, you can't drag in a camel at first with a stripper on top when you have like 50,000 drunk people in a park. That's not gonna work out. So you know, that happens as well, and it's a really huge thing. Like,
sounds exciting.
Yeah, I feel like that's
Do you have to be
the best event of
there?
No, everyone can join.
Okay.
So you know, sometimes I haven't done it, but I talked with a girl who actually brought her younger sister to that event. Or you can see family who just walks in to see like the chaos and like feel the vibe. Okay. So you know, everyone can join. You don't have to be from Aarhus University. So I think that's why it's a huge thing, because you can just enter basically. Okay. Yeah. Sounds exciting. Yeah. I always have like a little quote at the end of the episode. Wow. So today's quote is from Winston Churchill. Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. So this should like remind us that setbacks and failures are a natural part of the journey towards success, and that perseverance is key. Nice. And, yeah. So with that, thank you very much for taking the time. It was very interesting to learn about the exciting culture in Denmark. Definitely gotta go there again. Yeah. You know, you can come when you get 25. We can soak you in cinnamon. Sounds good. All right. Yeah. Then, bye everybody.